Which is better, the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G or the Samsung Galaxy A12? Well, in this video, we're going to be comparing these two devices, so let's get started. Now, the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G is a very new device. This phone was recently launched, and it is, at least at the moment, being offered at AT&T. In addition to that, this device is also offered globally, and I believe that it's going to be making its way over to additional US carriers as well. And then the Samsung Galaxy A12 was launched about a year ago, and this phone has been extremely popular both at the carriers, factory unlocked, and all around the world as well since being released. Now, for the most up-to-date pricing and availability for either of these phones, definitely take a look at the links in the video description, as I will be keeping those updated as time goes on. Now, with both of these devices, we're getting 6.5-inch displays. So the two phones are actually very similar in size and form factor, and you can see they both have pretty slim bezels all around with thicker bottom bezels. And then up top, both devices do feature water drop notches. Now with the Galaxy A13 5G, the front-facing camera is 5 megapixels compared to an 8 megapixel front-facing camera with the Samsung Galaxy A12. Now while the display sizes of these two phones are the same, the actual display technology being used here is slightly different. So with the A13 5G, we're getting a PLS TFT display that features a refresh rate of 90 Hz compared to a PLS IPS LCD display with the Galaxy A12 that's only at 60 Hz. So it is pretty cool that with the A13 5G, we do get a faster refresh rate for the display. It is a nice premium touch there. And then with these two devices, the PPI is around 270. They both feature a 20:9 aspect ratio. Now both devices feature 720p displays. They also feature a PPI of 270. They both have a 20:9 aspect ratio. And then with the Galaxy A13 5G, we're getting an 81.1% screen to body ratio versus an 82.1% screen to body ratio with the Galaxy A12. So for the most part, the front panels here are very similar, and in general, the displays also appear very similar in quality. So they're both decently bright. They also both have decent colors as well, but I did notice that with the 90 Hz refresh rate, things do seem a bit more premium with the A13 5G. Now with the Galaxy A13 5G, we're getting 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. And the A12 also features microSD card expansion, but is offered in both 32 and 64 gigabytes of internal storage. Now I believe the carrier version of the A12 is only offered in 32 gigs, and then if you do get the international model of the phone, you can get it in 64 gigabytes. But it is nice at least that with the A13 5G, the carrier model of the phone only comes with 64 gigs, because having that extra storage certainly does come in handy. Now neither of these devices feature wireless charging, but they both have fingerprint sensors on the power button. Now let's give that a try with both phones, starting off with the A13 5G. Nice and fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. There we go, very quick. And then we'll give it a try with the A12. Also very fast, one more time. There we go. So I definitely like that we do have those side-mounted fingerprint sensors, and in general, the placement is super convenient because you're going to be putting your finger on the power button anyway to turn on the display. Now, in addition to having fingerprint sensors, both of these phones also support face unlock. So I do appreciate that we do have multiple methods here for accessing the devices. Now taking a look at the cameras on both phones, there are some pretty major differences. So with the Galaxy A13 5G, we have a triple camera setup versus a quad camera setup with the Galaxy A12. Now the A13 5G features a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. Whereas with the A12, we're getting a 48 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. So I definitely wish that with the A13 5G, we did get an ultra wide angle camera, as I certainly feel like that's a nice feature to have, and it's certainly not a gimmick by any means. Now you can see looking at the camera app with both devices here, there's certainly some pretty big differences. Now you can see with the A12, we do indeed have an ultra wide angle camera, which does allow us to fit quite a bit more content into the frame, and we simply just don't have that feature here with the A13 5G. And then flipping around to the front-facing cameras in both phones, here's how it looks. So in general, I feel like both of these devices do have decent cameras, given that they are entry-level smartphones, but it certainly is disappointing that we don't have an ultra-wide-angle camera with the Galaxy A13 5G. Now, as far as RAM and processor go, with the Galaxy A13 5G, we're getting 4 GB of RAM paired up with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor. Whereas with the Galaxy A12, it comes in different amounts of RAM based on the storage that you get. But if you get the phone with 32 GB of internal storage, then you're going to be getting 3 GB of RAM. And if you get it with 64 GB of internal storage, then it does come with 4 GB of RAM. And then the processor here is the MediaTek Helio P35. So just the processor in itself is quite different between these two phones. Obviously, the A13 5G supports 5G connectivity, whereas you only get 4G LTE with the A12. But when it comes to general performance as well, I did do a benchmark test using Geekbench 5, and I'll show you the results from that test right now. But you can see a pretty large difference here. So for the Galaxy A13 5G, we have a single core score of 466, compared to a single core score of 169 with the Galaxy A12. And then for multi-core scores, we have 1113 versus 965. So I definitely recommend running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of whether or not either of these phones are going to be a performance upgrade for you. But definitely going from the A12 to the A13 5G, you are going to get significantly better performance. Whether it's with the extra RAM or by having that processor, having that faster MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor definitely is going to make a big difference here with the phone. Now, as far as battery capacity goes, both phones feature a 5,000 mAh internal battery, and they both accommodate up to 15-watt fast charging. So I do appreciate that we are getting very massive batteries with both of these devices, and you're able to recharge them pretty rapidly. Definitely expect to get at least a day out of these two devices, if not 2 days of usage. But now that we've talked quite a bit about these two phones, let's take a closer look at the hardware. Now, both phones do feature an all-plastic build, minus the displays, which of course are made out of glass. Now, taking a look at the left side of both phones, they both feature the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, and then on the right side of the two devices, they have volume up, volume down, and then the power button that's also the fingerprint sensor. Then up top here, both phones feature a noise-canceling microphone, and then on the bottom of the two phones, they both feature a 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. And then on the back of the two devices, they both feature the camera module, flash, and Samsung logo. Now, I do appreciate that both phones do have a matte black finish. However, with the Galaxy A12, I do prefer this texture, as it definitely doesn't pick up nearly as many fingerprints, and in general, I do think it looks better. But overall, both phones aren't necessarily made out of the most premium materials, but at the same time, they don't feel cheap. So I do appreciate that. So in conclusion, which of these two devices is the better choice? Now, the A13 5G definitely has several things that do make it better than the A12, and that is having that much better processor and having 5G connectivity, also having more internal storage, at least with the standard model of the phone, and also having the 90Hz display. Another thing to mention too is that this AT&T version of the phone does feature NFC, which the global Galaxy A12 at least didn't have. Now, based on whichever carrier you get the A12 from, it might or might not have NFC, but for the most part, with the A13 5G, the only feature that you're losing here is not having an ultra-wide-angle camera, which we get with the A12. But otherwise, this phone is at least as good, if not better, in pretty much every way. I suppose one other difference is that we do have a slightly worse front-facing camera with the A13 5G compared to the A12, because it does have less megapixels. But in general, when it comes to regular usage of the device, I haven't noticed anything wrong with the quality of the front camera. But most importantly, I'm curious to know what you think of these two devices. Do you think Samsung made some good choices when designing the Galaxy A13 5G? Or do you think they should have brought more to the table here? Definitely curious to know what you think, but I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G versus the Samsung Galaxy A12, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.